What's up, everybody? This is obviously not Doug O'Mac. It's even better. It's Chris Walder as your host for the show. Doug O'Mac is at WrestlingRumors.net right now. He's covering spoilers for Monday Night Raw tonight because the show is taped. It's in London. It's at the O2 Arena. So obviously we're not going to be getting a live program tonight. I've done everything in my power to avoid spoilers, but I succumbed to pressure. I noticed on Twitter you could actually read the spoilers at WrestlingRumors.net, but today on Wrestling Warm-Up, we will not be talking about the spoilers. We're all going to pretend like we have no idea what's going on. Some of us actually don't have a clue as to what happened on Raw tonight. We have the usual crew here, as always. John, Mr. Warhood, how's it going, buddy?
I'm doing well. About to graduate. And just so we know, and I'm going to make this clear, I have not read a single spoiler. So if I guess something correctly, I do not want to know I got it correct.
You're graduating?
Do I look young?
You do look a little young.
Pretty young.
I'm 23. Yeah, I'm graduating college tomorrow.
Is that your cat there?
Yes, it is.
Is he just as happy as for you graduating? You're growing up, man. You're growing up.
Yeah, I know, right?
And you reach 60 followers. Let's give a round of applause. Someone who was asking for followers every single week. You reached 60. Good for you, sir. On to the next, Patrick. Good
What's
friend,
going on,
Patrick.
Chris?
How's it going on, man? I'm doing all right, man. Trying to be spoiler free on Raw.
Yeah, unfortunately, unlike Warhood, I have unfortunately succumbed to the spoilers. I have read what's going on WrestlingRumors.net. I will not say anything, but that's all I'm gonna.
We're going to keep it on the download here, people. Yes. We're not going to try and spoil anything for Raw because I know most of you out there are looking forward to the show. Just a heads up, you might not be saying that at 11 o'clock tonight. Anyways, Ed, how you doing? Mr. Delay himself, wow. Ed, what's going on, champ?
Oh, God, shut up. You know what? Here's the thing. I actually avoided reading the spoilers. As soon as the show ends, though, I'm jumping on Wrestle Rumors to check out the spoilers, if only because I got to work tonight. And Warhood, if I could recommend something, how about you pull a genius next week and come in on the show in full cap and gown?
I could do that right now, actually. I'm actually looking at it right now.
You actually have your gown and cap with you in your bedroom?
Hey, I
have my hanger.
You have your hanger. That is one creepy-looking cat, by the way. It is like just staring off in the distance. What is it doing? What's the cat's name?
Lance. His name is Lance. Yeah,
What's up,
and
Lance?
at this point, if I threw him off my lap, he'd get right back up on my lap, so it's worthless.
It's a lap cat, eh?
Yeah. It's more of a dog.
So we have a special guest, Lance the cat. We don't know if he's read the spoilers. If he did, he'd probably be a little bit disappointed, but we're not going to talk about that. We are going to talk about is the big... Yeah? Sorry, Ed?
If Lance could be serious for a second, I was dedicating Lance to Lance Storm.
Oh, really? Oh, you were dedicating Lance to Lance Storm. That would be a pretty good tag team. Just as much personality between Lance Storm and the cat. Sorry, Lance, I love you. I follow you on Twitter. But, yeah, the big story heading into Raw tonight is obviously we know Daniel Bryan recently had surgery to repair a nerve issue in his neck. The state of the WWE World Heavyweight Championship is completely up in the air. I mean, unless you've seen the spoilers, we're just gonna, again, we're pretending like we haven't read it. But what do you guys think is going to happen on Raw tonight as far as Daniel Bryan is concerned? Do you think he's going to be stripped of the gold? What do you see heading into Payback? John, I'll start with you.
I'm kind of conflicted because I've heard I don't know what I've heard on your site on Wrestling Rumors that you can. There's one that says like he's going to be out for 6 to 9 weeks, and then there was something that was going to be he's going to be out like 4 to 6 months. And the question is in my mind, does the WWE think they have storylines to carry the product over while everything is going on, while Daniel Bryan's recovering? And if they don't, they have to strip him. So, and the way I view it right now is they don't, so I assume he has to be stripped at some point.
So what you're saying is you think maybe the WWE can get away with just keeping the belt on Bryan and just hopefully have other storylines pick up the slack, and maybe no one will notice that the champion is on the sidelines. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Yeah, like if you had good booking, like they did it. What they did it with CM Punk. He was out for a couple weeks due to a surgery, and they kept the title on him. And they had solid booking during that time. If they could continue, if they had solid booking with the Shield versus the Authority, and they had another major storyline going on, they should be able to keep it up.
And what John? Sorry, yeah.
No, I was just gonna finish, but it's fine.
Yeah, go for it. No, go for it.
Well, I was just gonna say I can't think of that like second. I mean, you have this secondary storyline that people are presuming is gonna wrap up at Payback, which is Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. And what is it? It's a last man standing match now. So if you assume that's going to be the end of that storyline, you don't have a storyline to continue all the way through till when he comes back, because you're not going to have that secondary storyline. So you have to strip him at that point to create a second major storyline within the company.
And what John was referring to before with CM Punk during the TLC, is there an ice cream truck somewhere? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I hear that too.
Dude, don't do that to me, man. I have not had food all day.
Yes, me.
I will be running outside right now, and I will be grabbing one of those, what is it, rocket popsicles, the red, white, and blue? I'm Canadian, but I will bust out the red, white, and blue popsicle, I'm just saying. But John, what John was referring to with CM Punk was that when he was WWE champion, he actually missed the TLC pay-per-view, and the main event of that show turned out to be John Cena versus Dolph Ziggler, and then they had a match with The Shield versus Bryan, Kane, and Ryback. So yeah, you could get away with Bryan not being at Payback, and hopefully keep him on the sidelines, keep him healthy, and then he doesn't get stripped, and fans stay happy. But Patrick, what do you think? What do you think happens with the belt tonight? Do you think they keep it on Bryan, or do you think he gets stripped?
I think Warhood hit the nail on the head. I think you're going to keep the title on Bryan right now. I was toying around with the idea, in other factions, like, I'm going to jump out of this, out of wrestling a second and maybe pull from UFC for a second. They have interim champions. Why can't we have, like, an interim champion for right now that can represent until Bryan, comes back and is healthy? Maybe we have a match with, like, Kane or, I don't know, somebody, another face. Like, maybe we throw the Shield in there, if they're not all fighting Evolution or whatnot. Maybe we have something like that where one of them is appointed an interim champion, and then, they fight Bryan down the line, maybe at Money in the Bank, maybe at SummerSlam. I mean, something like that. I mean, I know it's kind of like a left field idea, but I don't think he's going to be stripped tonight.
No, I mean, I actually like that idea. I mean, following along the lines of UFC, like you mentioned, I mean, fans are going to be devastated if Bryan loses the title, especially like this. And I think this is a good way to, keep him in fans' minds. People will be like, okay, whether it's Triple H, whether it's Kane, they're the interim champion, but we know when Bryan comes back, he's going to have a chance to defend his belt and then merge those titles together. So I'm with you, Patrick. I really like that idea. And before I get to, sorry, John.
They did that before, right? I'm not crazy. When CM Punk left the first time after Money in the Bank, they had that title, and they did that tournament, and Rey Mysterio won, right? Rey Mysterio was technically interim champion.
Yeah, but that wasn't really an interim champion, though. That was mainly because they thought Punk was gone for good and he took the belt. They were just trying to get someone as the champion. They weren't like, Punk's going to come back and we're going to have a match between the two champions. But I see what you're getting at. And before I get to Ed here, Nick from, well, you're not Nick, you're Brian. What am I saying? From the Nick and Brian show, it says Nicholas here. It took a second to get to the video feed. Sorry, man. What's up, man? You're back on Wrestling Warm-Up.
Yep. My long-awaited return. Nick is up there enjoying dinner. I have my plate right here.
What are you having for dinner? Burger and fries?
Not going to share with the rest of us.
Sorry about
that,
man.
I'm ready for hungry.
I'm ready for a non-spoiler related wrestling talk show, much like the one we just had.
That's what we do here on Wrestling Warm Up. But Ed, your opinions, man. What do you think about Daniel Bryan? Does he keep the belt? And if not, who's the champ?
My problem is that, and John and Pat, I do appreciate the sentiments with your ideas. The problem is that when CM Punk was injured, we were talking about 2 to 3 weeks, not 2 to 3 months. Champion thing's good, but we've already had just recently so much indecision between all the titles, between Orton and Bryan. We just got out of that abeyance sort of issue. I doubt people want to go back to that again. Here is the best solution I could have, and unfortunately it does involve Bryan being stripped. And trust me, I say this with huge reluctance. But I would like to see something maybe next week, a battle royal potentially to crown a champion. And now here's where you bring it around to full circle. If you make someone in Evolution, maybe you jumpstart Batista. He's already got the great heat going on right now ever since his turn around WrestleMania. Put the belt on him. You turn Evolution and Shield into potentially a 6-man match where the person who picks up the win wins the world title. If you remember, they did something like that at a King of the Ring. I believe it was '99. It was Rock, Kane, and Taker versus the
McMahon family and
that's how you potentially get through Payback. The problem I have, exactly. The problem I have with Bryan keeping the title is you potentially have a feud set up where you have Lesnar becoming champion, a part-timer with part-time appearance schedule. So if you keep Bryan with the belt, it's 2 to 3 months waiting on him, and he potentially drops the belt by SummerSlam, and you have a part-time champion who's not on TV as much. Can you really potentially go 3 to 5 months potentially with a part-time champion, either due to injury or contract?
See, that's the thing. I mean, Brock Lesnar would be one of the obvious choices. We haven't seen him on TV mostly because ever since he ended the streak at WrestleMania. But to put the belt on him at this time for someone who isn't going to be appearing regularly, I mean, the next time we probably see him is at either Money in the Bank or SummerSlam. And to be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, you got to be making regular appearances, man. And Brock Lesnar isn't capable of doing that right now. But
yeah,
I like your idea. You know, a battle royal. Yeah. Like, they really need to figure out what they're doing with this belt ahead of Payback because, I mean, you know, you have the WWE Network subscribers, you're going to be getting buys no matter what, but at the same time, you have to have some sort of answer as far as what the champion is concerned and what the state of the belt is. Are you going to take it off Bryan? Hopefully we get some sort of answer tonight, and I say this as someone who actually knows the answer to that, but again, we're not spoiling Raw for you out there. And before we change subjects, Bryan, what we talked about this earlier on the Nick and Bryan show. What do you think about Daniel Bryan? Is he going to lose the belt?
No, I don't think he will. I think you need to have him still hold the belt. It'd be different if he was a heel, and you could strip it, and then the next big babyface would get the championship. However, seeing as that he is a babyface, just keep the belt on him because right now, I don't see anybody that could take the belt off him that would make sense for us.
Can I ask you something real quick?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, but what do you do when let's say Bryan does keep the belt? What do you do when he comes back? Do you just pick it back up by Money in the Bank or Battleground with Kane, or do you just? I mean, I know the last image we have of Bryan is Kane taking him out, but still, considering the feud was such a low feud in considering how bad it came off on TV, do you really consider that's the first thing that happens with Bryan before he goes into potentially his title match with Lesnar at SummerSlam?
Well, anyone who wants to chime in, go for it, Patrick.
I think, you kind of need resolution to this at some point. I mean, whether it's Money in the Bank, whether it's, you know, Money in the Bank, I think is the only, or Battleground rather. It's blanking there for a second. You need to have a resolution to the storyline of one of those two pay-per-views, whether it's, you know, one of those, because then, you know, it just kind of is like, you know, a cliffhanger. And I mean, yeah, we have some cliffhangers sometimes, but, you know, just to establish maybe Lesnar comes back at Battleground, or, you know, Heyman has been in past weeks, you know, mentioning Lesnar and keeping him fresh in our minds. But I think at some point you have to get some resolution to this, Kane moves on from something else or to something else.
Warhood, what do you
Part of
think?
my ignorance, but has it been confirmed that Daniel Bryan is going to miss up to 2 or 3 months, or
hopefully tonight they give some sort of indication. I mean, the surgery's out of the way. The company must know how many weeks he's going to be away, and if they strip him tonight, which is still very possible, that must be a sign that, you know what, Daniel Bryan's going to be off TV for a long, long time. And I think, the best case scenario would be that he's back in action for the next pay-per-view Battleground, but you can never be too sure with neck injuries. Those things could really screw you over long term, and I think they want to play it safe as much as possible, because we've all talked about this before. The faces in WWE right now are dwindling fast, and now that we lost Daniel Bryan, it's basically John Cena. I mean, who else? Am I missing somebody here?
I just came up with
Roman Reigns.
came up with the most heelish idea possible. Could you imagine the idea of, and I know this is so far-fetched, Brock Lesnar possibly entering Money in the Bank. Let's say they keep the belt on Bryan. Brock Lesnar, Money in the Bank, he enters and wins it, cashes in that night, and the Authority agrees to a match where if Bryan isn't able to appear at that point, they award Lesnar the title.
I mean, that's long-term booking. That's still a few months away.
But that would be an amazing... It's just something that I was just pondering just off the top of my head. It's incredibly out there, but that's a fantastic way to get some epic heat on Lesnar to steal the belt without even having to confront Bryan.
Hey man, you don't need to make epic heat for Brock Lesnar. The dude just ended the streak at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Oh, I know, but he needs to maintain the heat though. He hasn't been seen since, so I think he's probably cooled off even with Heyman and on the mic.
He can ride that heat for the rest of his life, man. Whoever ended that streak, I don't care if they were the biggest face in the company, they were going to get heat by beating the Undertaker's streak. And I think Lesnar is set. The dude was already one of the most hated guys in the business already because of his part-time schedule. You give him Undertaker's streak, he's the biggest heel in the business right now, and he's not even on television. But just to close this topic off, I'm going to go through the list here. If Bryan loses the belt, who do you think deserves to be the interim champion? Warhood?
Wait, if he loses the belt, like he doesn't...
Yeah, if they strip him of the title, who do you think steps in and becomes champion? Yes.
That's a hard one. It has to be... I would have to say Batista, just because of the fact that it needs to go to a heel at that point. It needs to go to someone who's involved in a main storyline, which would put the Shield versus Authority feud into the main storyline officially, and I do not see them giving it to Randy Orton, and Triple H I don't think would be a full-time wrestler. Full-time defending it, I mean. So.
But lest we forget, Batista's going to be leaving soon to do some promo work for Guardians of the Galaxy, which the new trailer debuted today, which I really like. I think we actually get to hear Rocket Raccoon speak. If none of you know who Rocket Raccoon is, Wikipedia that, because that dude is awesome. Patrick, who is the champion if, of course, we're assuming that Bryan loses the belt?
If Bryan gets stripped of the title, the only two ways I see it going is either Kane or Triple H.
Kane or Triple H. Bryan?
I'm honestly stumped because it doesn't make any sense to me who would take the belt. But totally
it has to go to somebody.
Yeah, I know. Totally going against what I said on the show. Triple H just to feed off the angle, even if it's just it's vacated, but really it's Triple H's decision who he wants to give it to. Mm-hmm. Since he is a heel, that's what I'm gonna go with.
Ed, what do you think, buddy?
Nick is right. I mean, this is a very vexing issue. Or Brian, sorry, Brian. This is a very vexing issue. At WWE vacant, I guess. I mean, it doesn't. Nothing really adds up with this because I really don't see. I think Lesnar's the next contender. Whether or not he wins it's another story. I'll put out there. I'll go with the majority and say probably Triple H. But that no one's going to be able to guess that without seeing the spoilers.
And like I said on the show, this was the perfect time to get injured if there ever is a perfect time, because they don't have anybody next in line to take the title from him. Because if they did, then we would obviously all be picking him. But Batista is leaving for Guardians of the Galaxy. Triple H needs to transition into a suit, so you can't give him the title, because then people are like, so is he a part-time wrestler or is he a suit? Is he going to be Vince McMahon? Randy Orton just had it, and so I mean, they're backtracking there. John Cena's with Bray Wyatt. There's nobody else left.
No, I agree with you, man.
It to Bray?
Yes,
They would have to hotshot someone.
Giving it to Bray Wyatt?
Yeah, just like, I don't even know, like, because you have a feud there for them when they come back, basing it off of the previous stuff that was being worked around Royal Rumble with Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan. And Bray's insanely over in his whatever tweener role you consider him to be, whatever role he is over. If you gave him the rub against John Cena, and he went over John Cena, he has that going for him that pushes him farther, and then you can use that as a filler, because that's what it really is at this point, is the title is going to be held by one of those filler people to push over to the next one, and then you get closure with Daniel Bryan. Plus, those are hell of a match to watch when it comes back, is Daniel Bryan versus Bray at whatever pay-per-view.
See, the thing with Bray Wyatt is that I don't think he ever really needs the belt. He's one of those characters that just gets by on his persona. Yep. Like he gets by with cutting promos. He gets by with interacting with the audience. It would just be weird seeing him walking around with 2 titles. To be honest, I don't think Bray Wyatt is really at the top of the list of potential champions, and he needs to get through John Cena first before we have a truer understanding of where he's headed storyline wise. But I mean, you know, I've been wrong before. It could be. I mean, my personal choice would be Triple H. It's funny how a lot of us are not saying Kane. Because this is the guy that just took out Daniel Bryan.
But isn't he leaving going on break after Payback? Wasn't that...
Well, we all thought that we were going to get Daniel Bryan versus Kane in a Buried Alive match at Payback, and that was going to be the way to write off Kane so we can go do promotion for his See No Evil 2 film. But now that Bryan's on the sidelines, it's like, okay, what do you do with Kane? He's been in one of your main storylines on Raw the past couple of weeks. He was in the main event of your last special event, and now we have no idea what's going on. That's actually a good question. What do you guys think? What happens with Kane at WWE Payback? I'll start with you, Brian.
I think if we weren't at the situation where we had an undisputed champion, Kane would be the perfect person to give either the World Heavyweight or the WWE title to. But since he has to be the face of your company, whether you like it or not, I think that's why he can't be champion, simply because his prime was, you could say, 10 years ago, but at least 5 years ago he would have still passed as a champion. I don't remember. What question did you ask? What do I see Kane doing in Payback?
With Payback around the corner, this is a guy who's been in the main event scene, and now his adversary, so to speak, is injured. So what do you do with him now?
It beats me. I mean...
Great answer.
No idea.
He's probably the biggest loser out of this whole situation. If you think about it.
You think Kane suffers the most from
the one way I
can injured his neck?
The one way I can probably see Kane.
Yeah, Ed, go.
The one way I could possibly see Kane getting written off, if they maintain continuity with Stephanie's character as the unbiased authority, which I don't really see him doing, but okay, let's play devil's advocate and say he does. Say she does. She plays devil's. She said she threatens to suspend him. Somehow he kayfabe attacks her, and this basically sets the authority off, and they do something to absolutely destroy Kane and put him off TV, something like that. You know, I mean, maybe put him in some ridiculous stipulation match, maybe a handicap buried alive or something like that. You know, before Payback. I don't know. I mean, they somehow get the authority off to write him off, you know, for an extended period. That's the only way you can really get him off air.
And we have a new guest here, Willie. What's up, buddy?
What's up? WrestlingFaction.com, guys. I just thought about Triple H. If he's given the title, why does he have to carry both of them? Why not Randy Orton and for now Batista carrying them around for him? And
Randy was just the champion like a couple of months ago. Now
But
Hey,
he can
He wanted to
just
hold a belt
hold
for
these
someone else.
titles
That
for
wouldn't
me.
that be a little
Little heavy.
Yeah.
So they
It would
could
be
do that
fun.
with the Wyatt family too, right? I mean, just have Harper and
Yeah.
Rowan hold the damn
I-
belts. That's the closest
okay.
they'll ever get to it. It's a cluster, dude, guys.
That's a
It's a
burial.
cluster right now. It is a burial, but it's a cluster right now. We have no idea. I mean, if you read the
Not even a good
spoilers, you have a
cluster.
good understanding, but we're not obviously going to get into that. But something that's even more important right now for the WWE is that they are losing a buttload of money, and it's not a good time to be Vince McMahon. Forbes was reporting that he lost $350 million in one day. The stock shares are going down drastically. There's a lot of criticism and questioning behind the WWE Network that they think they're going to get, 2.5 million subscribers by 2015. I mean, they're barely scratching the surface of 700,000 right now. There's just a lot of negativity surrounding the company. People want Vince McMahon to sell WWE, which people would think is absurd, but with the way that the company is headed, it's not, out of the realm of possibility. And Warhood, I mean, have you been following this situation? What do you think about it?
Yeah, I actually, for a great article for those who are listening that haven't read it yet, Frank Manzo, co-host of the show that happens at 11 o'clock after Raw, Wrestle Reaction at WrestleReaction.net, he made I think it's his article on WrestlingRumors.com that is called Rumor Control, about a rumor about this whole situation that I read that was really good. It was a great article, and I think at this point, like, what I would want to see is, I don't know if it's even possible in terms of if it can happen and it stops, but if the WWE at this point, it's becoming more and more evident it's not going to get over, like, in the sense of stock markets, as a public traded entity. It needs to go back to being private.
Mhm.
That's the only way you're going to save that company, and even just save the company in general, because if Vince McMahon can't turn it around, which I think at this point, now that's actually affecting his bottom line, he's going to be like, I need to fix this. There's no way to be able to actually do it. Like, you need to make it private again.
And it's someone who's an expert on this. Mr. Doug O'Mac is in the building. What's up, boss?
Look at that face.
Guys, what's happening? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
What's up, people? I mean,
You want to give us a little bit of information? I mean, you reported it. Or there was a stockholder or shareholders meeting earlier this morning. You reported on it for the site.
Yeah, freaking A. Talk about something that was boring as crap. They didn't say anything new. Same old, same old. Really, honestly, it was nothing new that they brought to the table, which is why the stock continued to drop today. So when it closed out, I think it was a whole another $1.50 low. So the good news is, like, if you did read Frank's Rumor Control, I think I came in as Warhood was talking about that. You should rest assured that, I mean, this stuff will bounce back. If they get to where they're supposed to go over the next year and a half, it'll probably shoot back up. But right now, if you're interested, buy some stock because it's super cheap. This is a company that has been around for 60 plus years, man. It's not going to just fold. So one of the good news, one of the good things about all this is they do have a plan, even though they didn't share anything new. Honestly, when they were asked about specific questions, George Barrios, one of the executives, he just beat around the bush. And it was kind of brutal to sit through. The only really awesome part about listening to it was hearing Vince curse on the phone, which was absolutely hilarious. That was so awesome. They dropped the feed from the server site that they were using, dropped the host feed, which was coming from Connecticut. Vince obviously was calling from his cell phone in London, and Vince was still on, as were many of the people, if not all of them, that were joining either via website or via telephone. And when it went silent, he was asking for George. George, I couldn't hear. I couldn't actually hear that question. Can you provide us an answer for that, George? Shit. And it was hilarious. It was awesome. Like, literally, you could just sense that he was just super tired and super pissed. He didn't sound good at all. But that was interesting. But they didn't really give us anything new. as far as, you know, what's actually being done to try to get to 2.5 million to be in profit. But I do know that they are about to speed up the process of getting everything going globally with the network. That's their big step forward next. That's their biggest thing to hit on next, is trying to get everything overseas, and of course in your neck of the woods there, Walter, they want to get that network up there so they can get, even though they did acknowledge that there's 10% of network users right now are out of the country. So they know people are still getting the network.
We found a way, people.
That there's loopholes. They figured it out, and they figured out that 10%, are already overseas. So they're going to expedite that to try to get their money. But it's literally, they knew it was a gamble going in. As we've said multiple times on this show, on Wrestling Rumors Radio, we've talked about it over and over again. This was a gamble. The network was a gamble. Everything they're doing right now is up in the air because they're trying something new. And sometimes to make money, you got to spend money. And the investors don't like that, especially when your projected timetable of making money is a lot earlier than is actually going to take place.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Doug. I think, at the end of the day, Vince McMahon lost a lot of money, but I think this is just a setback that WWE will eventually get itself out of. The network still has a lot of time to end up being a success, but again, they have to reach a certain amount of subscribers before they start turning a profit, and they're not anywhere near that at the moment. And of course, investors are impatient. They want their money right away, but that's not going to be the case with this investment, so hopefully things turn around. Does anyone else have some final thoughts on this issue?
I think it's pretty funny that the stock price is the same price as about the network right now.
Yeah.
That's a true statement, yeah.
Notice that, Ed. Are you going to get a new stock soon, man?
Who, me?
Yeah, Ed, sorry.
Oh, Ed.
I have limited knowledge of this whole situation and of economics in general, but if you take a look back to when Vince decided to take this company public, which I believe was about 99 or so, I mean, he basically was set up pretty well. He was potentially on his way to outlasting WCW and ECW and winning the wars. He essentially words to make the company a little more fan accessible, and as he did with the network, he is always open to experimenting with different kinds of possibilities and ideas to make the product seem more palatable. Now, we're talking about the network he's betting his money on, which is barely 3 months old. I don't see this as a really big problem, as Doug alluded to. This is the stock market tends to bounce up and down with no real indecisiveness. And when you consider this as an entertainment company, priorities based on the stock market nowadays, entertainment-wise, very low on the totem pole of stock options. So I have no real concern about this. Although I will say this, Vince, if you need to make up for the $340 million, $2 right here, baby. How much for that? How much ownership can I get?
Hey, can I get some of that, man? I mean, what's the exchange rate for Canadian dollars?
Not worth it.
I could turn that to a lot of money, man. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, there's your stock market update for the day. That's the most we'll ever talk about money here on Wrestling Warm-Up. But how are we doing for time? It's 6 o'clock. We still got a few minutes to talk some wrestling. Again, we're not going to be spoiling anything for Monday Night Raw, but if you do want to know what happens ahead of time, head on over to WrestlingRumors.net. We got you covered on that basis. But we're just going to do a little rapid fire here. We're just going to go through some fast topics. Adam Rose, NXT upstart, who's now on the main roster, has been flopping in the eyes of many, which breaks my heart because I am secretly a Rosebud. Tonight they're in England, and man, if that guy can't get a reaction from the European crowd, that man is doomed. Just some quick answers. Willie, what do you think? What do we see from Adam Rose tonight?
I'm going to sell on Adam Rose. He might get a good response, but when he comes back, it's just the theme song, man. It's too bad because he's really talented, actually. But
that's the best theme song in the world, by the way. I jam to that every night. That's not
it's awesome, but I just don't think the gimmick is very long-lasting at all.
I'll give you that. Warhood, are you a Rosebud?
I am a huge Rosebud, and if he does not get a reaction in England, I quit. I quit.
You quit? You will never do Wrestling Warm-Up again if Adam Rose does not get a decent reaction in England. We will hold you to that. Loser leaves wrestling warm-up match, man. You and Adam Rose. I don't
Sure,
know.
I can take Adam Rose. No.
Hey, we'll get you out of contract for that. But Brian, man, what do you think about Adam Rose? Does he get over tonight finally?
I think I'm going to go a little bit out of left field with this. Maybe it's not so much Adam Rose. Maybe it's the person he's feuding with or getting up to the ring and then falling back and then getting crowd surfed. Jack Swagger. I think maybe if you give Adam Rose somebody else, but then again, if he fails with them too, then he's a total dud. But I'm going to still, to use Willie's phrase, buy or sell, I'm going to buy Adam Rose.
So you believe that because he's feuding with Jack Swagger, who people are just don't give a damn about anymore. You think that's why people don't like Adam Rose?
Jack Swagger is just an entertainment abyss. He just sucks anything fun and just drains it all out.
But he's literally not Abyss because we don't talk TNA here on Wrestling Warm-Up.
He's not Richard Park or whatever. Jack Swagger is just he's a fun sucker.
This is not the Jack Swagger fan club, as you can clearly tell. But,
he's a lemon. Jack Swagger's
a lemon. Oh man, Ed, what do you think about Adam Rose, dude? Does he get saved tonight by the English fans?
He's saved. For this with you, I think we talked about it last week. It's a mid-card. It's a mid-card character at best, and those really don't last that long. I mean, I'll give Sandow credit. If you look at him, he went from being the genius gimmick to still having an air of supremacy, but to be honest with you, he got a lot more real. And actually, I'll say that too. If we are still basically giving Sandow these lightweight feuds, I would have rather seen Sandow and Rose, to be honest with you, rather than Swagger, if only because, as was stated earlier, Jack Swagger is Buzz Killington. So I would rather seen Sandow put Rose over a little more if that's still his business right now.
That would be a good dynamic.
I actually like that. You know what? That's a great idea. Damian Sandow and Adam Rose. Jeez, that would be a lot better than Jack Swagger. But and last but certainly not least, Mr. Doug O'Mac, what are your thoughts on Mr. Adam Rose? Oh, we can't hear you for some reason. Are you there, Doug?
Aha, he's on the call.
We can't hear you. Google Hangouts is not like you today, apparently.
Oh, Mike was being a lemon.
His mic was not a rosebud. This is terrible. Oh my goodness. Well, that just happened. But yeah, and for the first time in what seems like forever, we're gonna be talking some divas. Last week on Raw, Alicia Fox, who tweeted me because I had to apologize to her because I reported that Alicia Fox had quit the company, and God was I wrong. I got to make sure I get my eggs in a row next time. But oh look who's back, Doug. Can we hear you now? Nothing.
You can hear me now?
Yes, there you are.
Yes,
yeah, Eureka, you're a rosebud again. You're a rosebud again. But maybe not until we hear your opinion.
I've got some bad news. No, I think honestly, if you've got a character who something that they really haven't done before. Again, it's kind of a throwback to the early '90s with the gimmicky comic book style stuff. With Adam Rose, he's a cross, as we said, a cross between Aldous Snow and Austin Powers. Will he get over? I'm on spoiler alert. I can't really tell you whether or not he gets over tonight. I know that already, so I can't say whether or not he has. Because I just spent the last 3 hours doing freaking spoilers for WrestlingRumors.net. Make sure you go check those out if you're a spoilerific type of person. But honestly, I mean, the dude, he can wrestle. The thing was, and a lot of people had the same issues with Bray Wyatt when he debuted. A lot of people had the same issues with Fandango when he was about to debut. Until you actually see them compete in the ring, it's hard to get invested, especially when it's a cheesy comic book character type gimmick, cartoonish deal like we've got with Rose. I mean, he's your British party boy, who obviously is from South Africa, right? I mean, that's we know that. They're gonna make him. Oh yeah, he's Kofi. Kofi Kingston still comes out to Jamaican music. Can we just establish that?
That's true.
So, boom, boom, boom. And let me tell you, I mean, Greenville popped for him big last week, by the way, when I was there. Kofi was over big time last week, which was hilarious, and he was on the pre-show. So
Kofi started making Greenville crazy.
Oh, don't even get me started on Greenville, South Carolina. But we're still waiting on the verdict for Adam Rose. WWE shouldn't be so quick to, and I said this on Wrestling Rumors Radio before as well. WWE should not be so quick to toss this gimmick out, because I think it could get over, but it's going to have to be his talent in the ring that truly gets that gimmick. I mean, if you told me a long time ago that Damien Sandow was going to have a fan following. I mean, he's got a cult fan following, just like Dolph Ziggler. Honestly, he does. He's not over in the majority of the views. He's a good hand. Everybody knows that he can get in there and work. If you could tell me that his character from 2002, which was nothing, I mean, he really didn't have a character. He was more being himself than anything. If you would have told me that the guy that was wrestling there on Livewire and different things like that, and on SmackDown, would come back using Lanny Poffo's genius gimmick and get it over, like literally doing the exact same gimmick again, but in a different, more aggressive way. If you would have told me, in 2005 that this guy was going to come out with Lanny Poffo's gimmick, I would have said that's ridiculous and stupid, and they shouldn't try it. But Sandal's gotten that over, and of course you've seen him get a lot more of an edge to him over the last few weeks. Or last few months, especially since he lost the Money in the Bank. He doesn't come out in the robe. He's a little more aggressive. He did the pipe bomb on the pre-show last week, which was hilarious. Like everybody sitting in the crowd last week literally thought that was Bad News Barrett over there, because he had cut his hair. He cut his hair shorter. We couldn't see who it was. But it was one of those things where he got that character over. Mainly because he's so good on the mic, and he's really good in the ring. And Rose can work, but the character will not get over if the action in the ring doesn't get over. It's all up to Rose, unless WWE Creative just pulls the plug and sends him back to NXT, which I don't think they need to. Because honestly, the guy can get over. It's just you need time in the ring. I mean, I know like Frank Manzo and Joe Omega from Wrestle Reaction weren't so high on Bray Wyatt when he debuted either, but those of us that had seen Bray Wyatt work as the Wyatt character knew it's only a matter of time before this guy becomes the biggest heel in the company. And now, now they're on his bandwagon because it took time. It took storyline. I mean, obviously nobody was high on the whole Ring of Fire match, Inferno match, without being lit on fire, which was ridiculous. And the opening feud for that wasn't good. But the character can get over. I'm behind Adam Rose. I think it's creative. I think it's different. The way that he comes in, the way that he comes out to the ring is completely different. That's new. We haven't seen that, and we haven't seen it work. So I'm all for him. I just think that he needs time. He needs time in the ring against formidable opponents. Jack Swagger is probably not the person you want to actually start him off with. I mean, I agree with Brian. Jack Swagger's as good as he is as a wrestler, as a singles competitor. Without him, thank God he's got a mouthpiece. I mean, thank God he's got Zeb Coulter now. I mean, that's the best pairing they could have ever come up with for that guy because he needed it. And it can take him to other places, but they're going to soon learn that Jack Swagger, without a tag team, is not money. He's just not. And to get this guy and make him Adam Rose's first opponent is probably not the best route. I mean, I don't know who else you throw in.
Hey, we all learned that at WrestleMania. We all learned that at WrestleMania 29 that Jack Swagger is not money as a singles competitor because no one cared about him challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship. But we'll leave it at that. If you're not high on Bray Wyatt or Damien Sandow, you're not a friend of WrestlingRumors.net as far as we're concerned. That's another story. We're just gonna do some rapid fire buy or sell. I like that idea by Willie there. We're just answering buy or sell spontaneously. But like I was saying before, Alicia Fox, who again tweeted me, she's my new favorite diva. I love this girl. She now appears that she's not going to be quitting the company. She's going to be sticking around. Buy or sell Alicia Fox as the new #1 contender and possible challenger for Paige for the Divas Championship. Willie, what do you think?
I'm buying that, man. Those backbreakers and German suplexes are amazing. And her tenacity, oh my god, she's just like killing Paige. And it's awesome. It's awesome viewing right now.
So we got a buy for Alicia Fox, Warhood. Buy or sell, Alicia Fox challenging Paige for the title.
I guess buy till AJ Lee gets back and then sell.
Oh,
And then, well, you're just beating around the bush there. God, we need a better answer next time, man. Brian, buy or sell,
Hey, you guys
Alicia Fox as the new contender.
I think it's already paid for, really. Buy. Because we're actually talking about a Divas feud on Wrestling Warm-Up, and Chris, you went as far as to tweet about it, and she went as far as to reply to you. So I'm going to buy, and I like where they're going with Paige being 21 years old. Hopefully they can do some sort of they can somehow build the Divas division back up to where it used to be. At least when we had a Mickie James and not the Lita and Trish era, but Mickie James and Melina and chicks like that.
I had such high hopes for Paige, but they have just kind of really derailed her momentum at this point. And she's the champion. Why is she not looking dominant? I don't get it. But Ed, buy or sell, Alicia Fox in this feud with Paige.
I'll buy her physically as a great competitor for Paige, but I'll sell her on the mic. That promo was the most awful thing I've seen in a long time. That it reminded me of something I was seeing on a high school special. That was absolutely awful for me. But the reaction afterwards, the match was great. It's going to take a little time. I'd like to see it over a couple months, but I'll buy it in the ring. But just keep them both off the mic, please.
Hey, that was me, the high school special. Hey, Paige needs work on her promos, man. But you know what? Tonight on Raw in England, she'll probably get a nice pop. So we'll see how that goes. Doug, buy or sell, Alicia Fox.
Sell.
Not a fan of Alicia?
She can work the ring, sure. But, I mean, dude, you really think this feud's going to last? You really think she has a shot at being the Divas champion?
Hey, I'll give her this.
Brian, you want to talk about the fact we're talking about it? We're talking about it because AJ Lee's not here, and they have to do something to give Paige a formidable opponent that's not the same people we've seen facing Paige over and over again.
That's true, man. There's no heel divas right now
She's
that you can really realistically throw.
I'll give her credit for going crazy and trying to get her name out there. People are talking about Alicia Fox, and she's been with the company for how many years? And everybody's just written her off as that's Alicia Fox.
I was interested by what she did last week, so I'll give her credit for that.
Cared. Nobody cared until she went crazy last week.
Hey, we're talking about Alicia Fox, so good for you getting on our good side and getting on the broadcast today, Miss Fox. And thank you for tweeting me. I always appreciate that. But buy or sell next. We don't know what's going to happen tonight with John Cena and the Wyatt family, but we do know this. We are going to get John Cena versus Bray Wyatt, the rubber... Well, Doug knows. Some of us don't know yet. But, yeah, we know for a fact the rubber match will be at Payback, last man standing of all stipulations. I was actually hoping for an I Quit. I feel like this will be the end of their feud, but, I mean, we reported at WrestlingRumors.net that this storyline could go into SummerSlam. So what do you guys think tonight about Bray Wyatt and John Cena? What do you see? And do you buy or sell this being the last match at Payback? Willie?
Oh, I definitely think this is going to be the last match between them. And I definitely, as I wrote on WrestlingFaction.com, I totally believe Cena's going to take over and win this feud so Bray Wyatt can go on and maybe do something in the Money in the Bank pay-per-view.
I like that idea. Warhood, what do you think, buddy?
I'm going out on a limb here because everything in my body says that this shouldn't happen, knowing the WWE. I'm going to sell it and say it goes to SummerSlam to make up for the fact that Daniel Bryan doesn't have it. Is not on television.
So you think they could really milk this feud with Cena and Wyatt just to fill time?
Like I said earlier in the show, if you need that second feud, and if you don't have that second feud, you have to strip Daniel Bryan of the title. So they have the option open. I don't know how it happens, but I can't see this feud ending at Payback. I just can't. I think they try and stretch it out as far as it's needed to get either another storyline in place of it or Daniel Bryan coming back. And whenever Daniel Bryan comes back, the storyline ends. I'm done.
Did we lose Walter?
It seems that way.
It looks like we lost Walter.
Walter, you
It
dead?
looks like we lost
Host.
we lost the host. We're still here.
Yeah.
I'll sell it. I agree with Warhood, man. I actually read Willie's post on Wrestling Faction. I think that if it goes to this match being the last one, okay, they had a good little program, but they need to milk it out. And I will say that introducing the Usos into the equation is a good way to do that. Having the Usos with Cena, and you can get a 6-man tag at a pay-per-view now, and keep this feud going forward. Because how many times have we said there's not enough long-term booking happening right now for the company? And if it's me, and I recognize that the Cena-Wyatt feud is probably the best feud that they have running right now. It's actually selling more merch and getting more people invested in it than the Shield Evolution angle. I don't think Shield Evolution is the main event tonight on Raw, but I'm telling you that I really think that we're going to see this thing keep going, and SummerSlam give us the final. The only thing that makes me think this might be the last match, this rubber match, would be that it's a last man standing. That to me, it's like, okay, last man standing. This is like the match that you have in the feud. It all comes down to who leaves, who's standing. But they can do a lot of schmod stuff. There's there's 4 other people involved in this feud right now.
I'm gonna sell it too, Doug. I agree with you. Like, to be honest, Cena and Wyatt, they don't really have anything else to really build to if they end this feud, because Wyatt's come out and said that he doesn't really need a title. He doesn't want a title. And John Cena isn't in the title picture anytime soon. And this match, when was the last time we actually cared about a John Cena storyline? So I think they should take this into SummerSlam, because this feud is money, and for no other reason than that, except the feud's just money.
I want to buy that this is the last match, because I like the idea of it being last man standing. It saves Cena a little bit of face in that he doesn't actually have to say anything, and there could definitely be a lot of schmoz finish. But I think that there could be some possible leanings towards belaying the end. If you have Money in the Bank and you potentially, I wouldn't want to see them interacting one-on-one until SummerSlam. You have that be the final finish. Maybe there's something involved in the Money in the Bank ladder match involving Cena and Bray. Even though I could see him being involved, and possibly Bray just winning the briefcase just to spite him, but just going out and saying, I don't need this. As you said, he doesn't need the title. He doesn't need the briefcase, so he just does something to just constantly needle at Cena. And then there's some sort of last confrontation match where Cena puts something on the line, not career, but he puts something up and as a way to basically bring some sort of finality. I don't know if Bray goes over it if that's the case. The only way I see Bray going over completely is if it finishes at Payback.
Yeah.
So I got a question for Doug here.
Yeah.
What about, didn't Cena and Ryback do like a last man standing where they both like killed themselves through the?
Yes.
Yeah,
that
was at Extreme Rules last year.
You could possibly extend it that way, where they both, somehow incapacitate each other somehow with.
Well, exactly. And I think that if they do that, Warhead, I will say, when Walter left, I think he was on you, and so everyone's just seeing you. So look happy. You're the face of Light Wrestling Warm-Up.
You're the face of
You're the only one that people are seeing.
Oh, that's
because when he left, Walter just actually sent me a message and says that he can't get in. That he's locked out for some reason. I don't know what the deal is or what's happening. But the good news is we only have 5 minutes left, so we're gonna keep talking like this, or we're gonna end the show. And Warhead, your pretty face is what anybody can see, but they can hear us. The answer, Willie, that's what I'm talking about. Like if they pull the schmoz you have 4 other guys that can get involved with this thing. Obviously, the Usos are going to come out with Cena. Obviously, because they're not, I mean, for me, non-spoiler related, we haven't heard anything about the Usos versus the Wyatt family for the tag team titles yet. That has not been a discussion on air as far as what we're going to see, especially not on Raw. They haven't been building up towards this yet. Right now, it's just Cena's got these 2 guys in his corner because he knows that he can't defeat Bray Wyatt by himself. So for me, the easy thing, whoa, easy.
Hello.
For me, the easy thing to do is do a schmoz. You know, I don't think it's going to be those 2 guys go through a LED light and take each other out. These aren't 2 powerhouses this time. You know, this is the crazy thing would be have Bray Wyatt lock Cena in some kind of weird cage in a basement somewhere or something. You know, that would be like the crazy thing to do. But the actual logical thing to think is Usos, Rowe, and Harper get involved somehow. This thing turns into a just freaking no finish, and we have to take this thing to Money in the Bank. And then you can start parlaying this feud into 2 different ones where you have, we have Money in the Bank, which could be a 6-man tag, Battleground, which could be a 6-man tag with some kind of crazy stipulation, do an Armageddon Hell in a Cell or something. Do something crazy, right? And then that takes us to SummerSlam where you get
War Games.
Yeah, I mean, we already talked about the fact that they teased War Games, but the arena's not set up for it. They were looking at that for Evolution Shield, but then that'll get you to where you can have your title match, Rowan and Harper versus the Usos at SummerSlam, and have Bray versus Cena in their final meeting at SummerSlam. And dude, that's money. That is absolute money. If I'm thinking in the viewpoint of a promoter, you book it that way and you say we're drawing this thing out, 6-man tags the next 2 pay-per-views because they got involved in a last man standing match, and then you have a Hell in a Cell or a last man standing again or something big. It can't just be a one-off singles